dengan AI hari ini.
Hello and good evening, I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Tonight on the show, we're delving into a topic that's somewhat shrouded in controversy and stigma, the issue of ketum use. Now, despite its long history in Malaysian culture, ketum remains a divisive issue with conflicting opinions on how to address its use and regulation. There's a general lack of understanding around ketum, which makes meaningful public discourse somewhat a daunting task. How can we navigate this to shed light on the realities of ketum use and abuse? Joining me on the show tonight is Dr Zurina Hassan. She's a researcher at USM's Center for Drug Research. In 2001, she was selected as one of only 10 recipients worldwide of a German Research Award to fund her research on ketum. Dr Zurina, thank you for being on the show with me. It's a pleasure to have you. Can you begin our conversation tonight maybe by providing our viewers with a bit of an overview of what ketum is and how it's classified under Malaysian law?
Okay, ketum is actually known as a scientific name as Mitragyna spiosa, which is a plant-based preparation that is native in Southeast Asia, especially in Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia, Myanmar, and also Papua New Guinea. And in US and Europe, it has been known as a kratom. Okay, in English name is kratom. Okay, kratom is already banned for domestic consumption in Indonesia and Malaysia. But in Indonesia, they allow its export in unprocessed form. So it's in the powder form and is cashing in on the crop. So a lot of money is coming in using these methods. In Malaysia, its use was permitted until 2003. And then after that, it was placed on the first and the third schedule of Poison Act in 1952. So this made the selling of ketum leaves and anything we relate with the ketum is an offense with a penalty of 100,000 or a maximum 5 years jail in or both in 2022. This is the latest. This is the latest one. So in Thailand, in Thailand, it's actually illegal to possess or cultivate ketum, but it's legalized in 2018 and fully legalized in 2021. So now ketum can be found a lot in Thailand. It's illegal. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what do we currently understand about ketum's effect on health? I mean, there's a pervasive belief that it's harmful and it's addictive. Is that true? What does your research suggest?
Okay, let me explain first. The effects of ketum is basically depending on the dosage and the individual response. Okay, previously, ketum has been used traditionally to treat back pain, fever, cough, constipation, diabetes, hypertension, and wound healing. However, based on my research, ketum consists of the psychoactive compound known as the mitragynine and also 7-hydroxymitragynine, which is these two compounds that interact with the opiate receptors in the brain, has a similar effect as a morphine. So that's the reason why at low dose it produces a stimulant effect, and high dose it leads to the sedation effect similar as a morphine. And it's also been associated with a potential risk if you're taking it at a very high dose, and it can cause an anorexia, depression, psychosis, seizures, and also can lead to the addiction, and also physical dependence if it's high dose.
Okay, but what if the dosages are controlled? Are there potential therapeutic uses for ketum? I'm just wondering whether there's been any documented potential benefits of ketum that may warrant further exploration.
Okay, based on my research, we already identified what is the safe dose that can be used for people to consume without causing any harm to the body. And we studied a lot on this mitragynine because mitragynine is the major compound in the ketum. And also now, Malaysian has put mitragynine as the psychoactive substance under the Poison Act. But from my studies, I found that animals who are craving for the ketum it can go back to the normal without having any ketum for 9 days. However, if the animal is addictive to the morphine, and then we stop giving them the morphine, and it takes about 28 days to go back to the normal. So it be longer in the morphine compared to the ketum. So this is the potential effects of the ketum, means that it's a very good. It doesn't cause any physical dependence for a long period of time, and the person can go back to the normal within a period of time. And also the best thing that I want to say about my research on this ketum is basically it can be used to replace the morphine addictive people. So means that when we treated the animal with the morphine and then we replace them with ketum, mitragynine, and it can produce the similar effects. I mean, it can reduce the withdrawal effects in the morphine. So now we don't have to use the normal available drugs like methadone, buprenorphine, and suboxone. That is the best studies on the ketum.
Oh, that's remarkable. So what does this mean? You mentioned a bit earlier that Indonesia allows for the export of ketum in an unprocessed form. There had been also quite a lot of discussion, I think, in Malaysia also about the economic potential of ketum cultivation here. From a scientific standpoint and for medicinal purposes, what do you think? Are there ways for Malaysia to tap into this potential for economic benefit, but also not just maybe going down the Indonesia route of processing, of exporting unprocessed ketum, but can we value add? Can we make it better and create products that are derived from ketum?
Yes, at the current in Center for Drug Research, we are developing a new products. I mean, the new formulation for this ketum, so in the safe dose, so that it won't cause any toxic to the body. For in the hopes that for the future, people can use this instead of, I mean, like they're taking without controlling the dose. So now we are producing the products that is a formulated ketum, which is a very good in absorption in the body, that without causing any toxics to the body. So this is a potential effect of ketum. So it can be used as for the pain relief because it's acting on the opiate, and it also can be used for the opiate addicts. For those people who are craving for the drug like morphine, methamphetamine, they can use ketum instead of taking the morphine and methamphetamine.
So right now, do you think that the current classification of ketum is correct? Should it be reviewed or relooked at?
Yes, it should be reviewed because I found the potential effects of this ketum. Because I can see a lot of people in the public, they normally thinks that ketum is it cause a bad, especially cause a physical dependence. But basically, if you study about this ketum, it's a very unique drug. It's a very potential drug which is better than morphine, and it doesn't cause any toxic effects to the body, and it doesn't cause, I mean, tolerance. I mean, like if you're taking morphine, you have a certain limit of time. You have to increase the dose up to the ceiling effect whereby it can cause death, but not for ketum. You can take at the highest dose, but doesn't cause any toxic to your body.
So what would you like to see, Dr. Zurina, in terms of how ketum is classified and regulated? I'm sure there are differing perspectives about how it should be regulated, but what about you? What, given that this is your scientific research, this is your research field, where do you think the regulation of ketum use should be headed?
I think because they are talking about mitragynine is the ones that they're putting under the psychotropic drugs. I think they shouldn't put this as under this poison X, and it's supposed to be like under traditional medicine, because like in WHO, you see we have a number of the drugs that has the potential as therapeutic, but they don't place them under the Schedule 1. So they are still produce them under the traditional medicines that can be used as therapeutic. So I suggest that maybe it's possible the policymaker can think about that rather than putting them under the Poisons Act, or they are planning actually for the future to place ketum into the dangerous drug. If it's placed into the dangerous drug, means that nobody can have this ketum anymore.
Right.
especially those in the rural area.
Okay, why do you think there is such misunderstanding around this? As we mentioned earlier, there's this pervasive narrative or opinion in the public that Ketum is harmful, is addictive. Why do you think that is, and how do we correct this using evidence-based policies and interventions?
Because the people who are taking Ketum in the field, basically they are adulterated with other kind of the drugs. Means that it doesn't take Ketum alone, but it mixed with other drugs, like for example, Aramine 5 and other things that add on into the Ketum, make it them is more pleasure, make it them is more euphoria. That leads to the addictive liability. So if you are taking Ketum alone, it doesn't cause any harmful. Means that it can be used as a treatment for health actually.
Can I ask you, Dr. Zurina, are there a lot of opportunities to research Ketum in Malaysia, Ketum use? I mean, are there are there areas that you think we should be facilitating more scientific inquiry into further research of Ketum?
Actually, research of Ketum is still going on. A lot of studies still going on, especially I'm working a lot to study what is actually effects of the Ketum, especially in the brain, what it causes the effects in the brain, because from the brain, it can change the behavior of the person. However, we have a difficulty because this is a dangerous drug. I mean, this is under Poison Act. So to work with this kratom, you need approval from the MPRA. So this is our concern, because when we ask for the approval of an MPRA, it takes a longer period of time to get approval, and your research is actually delayed. That is our concern. And another thing is actually to have a grant for this project, because it's under Poison Act and people normally don't give you a grant.
Right. Okay. So now that I have you and you have some time on the show, can I ask you what message you have for policymakers, and public health authorities? What would you like them to prioritize in terms of further research on Ketum, in terms of policy attention on Ketum, so that we have more evidence-based information to create policies and interventions in the future?
Okay, I would like to indicate that based on our scientific evidence that we getting so far, actually still the research is still going on. Ketum is actually safe to be taken at a certain dose, and also it doesn't cause any addiction like other kind of the drugs, and it doesn't cause any toxics to the body. It's good to be used as a replacement therapy for the opiate addicts, especially morphine. And I would suggest that if possible, the policymaker can take into account all the potential benefit of this ketum, to change the regulation of this ketum, and instead of putting them under the dangerous drug in the future. So that is the benefit that I can share with you guys about the scientific evidence that I obtained in the lab.
Right. Dr. Zurina, thank you so much for sharing your research with us. You certainly gave us some food for thought today. Thank you for your time. That was Dr. Zurina Hassan from USM's Center for Drug Research. We're going to take a quick break here on Consider This. We will be back with more on this topic, so stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. Let's continue our discussion about Ketum use. In our last segment, we delved into the scientific aspects of Ketum. Now let's shift our focus and find out what the ground reality is of Ketum use. What are drug rehabilitation facilities seeing when it comes to the prevalence of Ketum use and addiction? Joining me on the show now is Raja Azizan Raja Suhami, more affectionately known as Pak Ungku. He is the Secretary General of the Malaysian Substance Abuse Council, MASAC. Thank you so much, Pak Ungku, for being on the show with me today. What do you think are the main challenges or the main concerns that you have when it comes to Ketum use in our society?
My main concern is this abuse of taking ketum. Because the more you take, your body tolerance will become uh, less, and then you will consume more. That's the problem. Actually, if ketum, they consume about a cup of, but we cannot say because every we have 10 species of ketum. Ada urat merah, ketum gajah, urat hijau. So I think the best is the urat merah. Maybe if you take urat merah for one cup will be enough. But they usually the abusers, they want to get high with ketum. So actually one is enough for them to feel relaxed, body ache, or to work in the hot, humid situation. But they consume more than that. That's abuse lah. That is my main concern lah. But if they take it as some our old people said, anggap seperti ubat. If you take that as a medicine, I think there is no problem. But the main concern now is the abuse of drinking ketum.
Right. But Uncle, what have you observed? Do a lot of, like, how there's a cultural context the use of ketum in Malaysia. So what are you observing? How do people use ketum? Are they abusing it? Are they addicted to it? What are your observations on the ground?
Actually, in the late 80s and also early 90s, there are no methadone yet. The MAT, medical assisted therapy, there is no methadone yet. Drug addicts will take ketum for their withdrawal, and it a success actually. But the main problem is they have to bring a sling bag, or wherever they go. In the sling bag, there will be a bottle of ketum. So every now and then they will drink the ketum. So I think the so is they will, after a while they will take the big bottle. So after that they feel maybe fed up or lose hope. They will take heroin back. So actually, what I see is the researcher of this, like USM, Dr. Darshan, and also the policymaker haven't sit down yet to find a solution how to benefit from this ketum, because I think ketum is easily available and will be free. It will save us a lot of money for psychoactive people with psychosis, people with stress, mental issues.
Right. So the classification of ketum. Do you think that if the government gazettes ketum as a dangerous drug, would that be adding to the problem of criminalizing those who are using ketum?
Yeah, actually, you just put it under the Poison Act lah, bukannya under dadah membahaya. Just imagine, right now we have about 30 over. We do some research. 30 over 1,000 people using ketum, and once they are caught, if it's under Akta Dadah Membahaya, what will happen to them? Ketum is easily available, and most of them use ketum as a means to stay strong while doing hazard work. So if you catch them, urine them positive for ketum, you have to sentence them to pusat serenity. What happened to them? So I don't agree ketum to be in the dangerous drug. Come on, you should be concentrating on the new psychoactive substance. About 800 over now, new psychoactive substance. They are in our market now. We can call it market now. Do something about that. Youngsters are freely taking all this synthetic THC ganja, heroin, everything is in the market. They mix and match. So that is more important than carrying loads of ketum in the barrel or whatever lah. So
right now, if someone is caught with ketum or being a ketum user, what happens to them?
It's still under the Poison Act, taracun. So they will be fined lah. Be fined if they have no money. They will be sent to jail. What to do? they will be sent to jail. But the problem is when they are sent to jail or be fined, there will be a record there. So it's a pity lah for them, because most of the Ketum users those consume Ketum nowadays are people who are working very hard, using physical strength to work. So Ketum is their what we call they can work better when they are sweating with Ketum.
Can I ask you, is Ketum use often linked to socioeconomic factors? You mentioned, people who do hard manual labor, right? But is it also to do with people who are from a lower socioeconomic status, vulnerable populations, marginalized people? Is that why there is this kind of misconception and negative perception around Ketum use?
Old folks, especially the men in the kampung, they drink Ketum. They do the Ketum themselves. They boil the Ketum themselves and drink. Most of them don't abuse the Ketum. They are using it actually for stress, to make them relax, back pain, everything. But when it comes to in town, especially in KL, there are business there already. So one bottle of Ketum now costs about 10 ringgit, 12 ringgit. That is the problem lah. So they have to take it because they need Ketum to make them strong, to work hard. So I don't see I don't see any any reason to make it as a drug, dangerous put under the dangerous drug.
So what would you like to see, Pak Ungku? What policy would BASAC like to see in relation to Ketum?
We haven't heard about Ketum user died of overdose. We cannot prove that Ketum uh, 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 become a very serious internal organ, everything. We just simply say it, but we cannot produce. Just the same as people who say Ketum is good. It help with the hypertension, diabetes. So both both parties can only say, but they never sit down and thrash it out. That's the problem. But my experience, in the 80s, early 90s, Ketum is the answer to those who can't stand withdrawal of taking heroin. It does help them. But the problem is, uh, knowing drug addicts, when they took Ketum, there is no more withdrawal of heroin. They want the high, still want the high, so they consume more Ketum. That is where they abuse it. So we must find a way, kalau that we can get Ketum in tablet form, in this about the milligram, the same milligram, we can save a lot of money rather than to buy methadone and everything. I think.
Right, but Ungku, what message do you have for the public, for policymakers? You mentioned that yes, Ketum, you're looking at Ketum, but you're also very concerned about the prevalence of psychoactive substances in society. What message do you have around how we should be addressing the issue of psychoactive substances and other substance abuse?
Yeah, actually the message is very simple. Very simple. Don't ever use anything that is hard, but that can bring you high. That means Ketum, whatever is Ketum or the new psychoactive. Just read a lot, listen to experienced people. Don't don't start, because if you start using, it's very hard for you to turn back. We can see that. So whether it's Ketum, whether it's ganja, or whether it's a new psychoactive substance, please don't use, especially the young people. When you do vaping, look at the content of the liquid, because sometimes when in Seremban, I was called emergency call in one college, swasta in Seremban. Two of their students collapsed, coma for 3 or 4 days. Then when we asked, they said they took mushroom. They buy the mushroom, about 10 milligram, one bottle, 50 ringgit. So they sell to their friends about 3 drops, 10 ringgit, 3 drops, 10 ringgit. So when two of them fall into coma, another four start vomiting. So it's very dangerous. So if you now actually a drug is a prestigious business, same like weapon and also prostitution, right? So drug is one of the prestigious business, a lot of brand money involved. So people, the pushers will do anything to con us to take drugs. So you better be careful. Do a lot of reading, go for seminars, listen, and parents do get to know who their sons or their children's friends are to be safe. Because in the end, if you are hooked with any substance abuse, be it ketum or anything, you will suffer.
Pak Ungku, thank you for sharing your experiences and your insights with us. I appreciate your time. That was Pak Ungku Raja Azizan Raja Suhami, the Secretary General of the Malaysian Substance Abuse Council. That wraps up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.